Right, hello there. We are on the Aslans Army Brexit livestream, 22nd of March 2019. What was 1 week to go until hard Brexit? Now where are we? We're going to be finding out. Now we are in the loading up phase here. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to be letting people come in before we dive into the topic. And I'm just going to get a few things straightened out here. Let's go over to Aslans Army. Oh, look at all this. God blimey, got to clean all this stuff up. People send me messages, you know. Oh, Facebook just totally jammed up. Go away, Zuckerberg. You're so annoying. No, that's not even the page I wanted. Back. Let's see, can I get... here we are, into the live stream itself. Boot that up. And if I can be cunning with this, I was doing it that way. Okay, if I get back on there for a moment, that should then catch up the picture here. I'm trying to be clever. I'm trying to get this to pause at a useful moment so I can sort of have that screen on. Come here, bug. Have that screen on this picture. But no, I'm missing it. I've got no function. Never mind. Okay, let's get into saying good evening to people. Hello, Peggy. Hello, Fred. Hello, Lars. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Steve Roberts. Hi, Steve Winwoolley. Hello, everybody. Okay, so yeah, about 7 minutes. Good evening, Pamela. Hi, Kylie. About 7 minutes, I'm going to start cracking through talking about this week. I'm expecting a lot of questions and a lot of concerns. So whatever you are worried about, whatever you see as a potential scenario, you know, anything, all of your Brexit concerns, we will look at them all. So by all means, stick them up. In fact, I mostly want to try to get a conversation going between everybody as just as much as I want to say what I see going on. Yeah, okay, that's cool. That's coming in very nicely. Right, okay. What else has been going on? Oh my God, if anyone's been looking over at Q, you know, all the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Hello, Rick. And, you know, the Prince Andrew angle. Now, look, this is a tough one because that's a horrible topic, but I could tell you that that is too important to ignore. So we are going to have to look at that Q information from an Aslan point of view and considering how it impacts on the UK, because, you know, Andy cannot be allowed to be getting away with that stuff. And I know that's plenty triggering, and we've got enough on our plate at the moment in the UK. But definitely, you know, just like amazing what's going on there. Quick review of what's on Twitter. I mean, this stuff with the FBI and Spygate is just building all the time at the moment. Yeah, okay, even the Twitter's slow at the moment. Nothing's working very well tonight. I've heard that from people. Geoengineered sky, apparently. Okay. Ray Chandler, this is it. What Joe M is talking about here. This stuff. This is massive. Andy, Bill Clinton, John Podesta, for certain, you know, this girl procuring young people, some of them underage, some of them teenagers, the dropouts, you know, and supplying them to the pedo wood. And this connects to Britain because it connects to the industry here. I made me wonder why the media is so solidly defending the European Union. All of these strands connect, everybody. They all connect. And while I'm here, this is a great opportunity to look for a meme I wanted. You know, you stash memes away. You stash hundreds of the damn things away. And can you ever spot the one you want when you want to spot it? No, you cannot. Let's see. And we're straight there, I think. Shouldn't be a problem. Here we go. This is the one I wanted. You know, because this is actually what this week is about. This meme here is actually what this week is about. Now, let's see if can I get clever here. Can I get back into the discussion here? I don't know if I can make one of those sort of posts into a live stream. Apparently not. Okay, but you know, I can get back onto it. This just says it all, you know. I mean, here's Britain. I mean, okay, in this meme we're hearing of Article 50, but the reality is Article 50 is a fake instrument, you know. But you know, France, Spain, Italy, all you know, being throttled by the European squid, you know, putting a knife into Eastern Europe, you know, ISIS coming in from Africa, Greece dead, squished under its weight, Hungary smiling, putting up a fence, and Britain rearing up, you know. And you know, this meme predates the EU referendum, I would think, which is from earlier that year, about that time. But it's also really relevant to now, because what's really gone on this week illustrates this perfectly. So we're definitely going to come back to Pepe Europe, and come back to our comments here for a moment. Yeah, everything they throw at us is fake. Absolutely, Fred. Hello, John Sanderson. Hello, Patricia from California. And hello, Debbie. Hello, Debbie. Okay, cool. We're filling up quite nicely now. So another minute or two, and we'll continue to get the live stream itself started. But what a week. I mean, in one sense, it's been hilarious. In another sense, horrific. So we're really at how you squint at it now. And that's really important for activism in general. Very good, Fred. You've got to get your energy up for this kind of thing. You know, you've got to power your old brain box. You know, take info on. Do the research. It all takes a good dinner. I completely agree with you. You know, or if not, a sugar rush, but that's less recommended. Hello, Robert. Okay, I think we're about time now. I think I'm going to start to make a start here. People can pull in. Right. Well, oh God, what a week. Okay. I guess, you know, there's a whole mix of emotions going on right now, and I would suppose, but the worst of them would be despair. Hello, Mickey. Live stream about Brexit, mate. Yeah. So I mean, the worst thing would be an overall sort of despair about the whole thing, as what is going on. I'm going to stick us onto that. And I mean, the situation before Theresa May went to the European Union was that she'd failed to get her deal passed twice. We had a legal date set in UK law of the 29th of March at 11 o'clock at night. And this was for Brexit Day. And if a deal hadn't been passed by that time on that day, we would default no deal Brexit. And this has been the narrative, you know, for the last couple of years. You know, this has been the narrative over that time. Now, one of the things we need to look at is why Mrs. May's deal has not passed, and that also means looking at what Mrs. May's deal actually is. That's important. We need to understand that. We need to understand why Remain MPs have not been voting for it, and we need to understand what has now happened by Theresa May going begging to the EU for them to impose their solution, and the very real trouble that may put us in. But at the same time, you know, right now, No, we have not lost Brexit. Brexit is still available to us, but we aren't going to get it sitting on our hands anymore. That has, as of this week, become very clear. Now, there's a post up from Miedra on Aslan from earlier on today. So before we say go any further with this live stream, I'll make it quite clear, once again, in case anyone doesn't know, we will only advocate lawful actions. So, you know, we're not interested in any kind of unlawful civil unrest, you know, and we will not support it, you know, and we will never buy into that narrative, because in a very real sense, this fascists versus anti-fascist narrative is very constructed, very manipulated. And there's very few people out there that you can really trust are playing with a straight bat, you know, especially for people who seem to be able to hang around. So, you know, it's a huge pitfall where we get polarized, we get radicalized, and then we get divided, and then we get conquered. We have to try to do better, even though it is extremely hard. And we will support lawful actions. We will support actions based on asserting our rights and doing so in a way that does not break laws. Now, that does not mean that that approach is unlimited, but if we ever get to a place where that approach is no longer relevant, then we will be in a very, very dark place, and what you or I think will be the least of our problems. So for now, let's pull back from that. Now, why could Theresa May not get this deal passed? And why was that? Because when I looked at the deal, I see Remain, or at least Remain's best chance. Because you see, what we need to understand is what's being agreed now is the neutral mechanics of the leaving. So this deal, which is not Mrs. May's deal, it's the European Union's deal. They wrote it and gave it to her in June last year to present to Chatham House as if she'd thought of it. Right, so it's the EU's deal. This is the EU's version of Brexit. Under this deal, Britain is really in a shit place for a good couple of years, but hopefully can eventually get back out of it, but it isn't entirely clear if that's true or not. And that's what this Attorney General advice is all about. You know, do we get trapped in the backstop where we lose the option to control leaving the EU ourselves? Well, we may be in a position where we will find that that has actually happened already, but we've already lost control of leaving the EU ourselves. Now, I would point out that does not mean we won't leave the EU, but it does mean that we have lost control of leaving the EU, because the MPs wouldn't settle on the deal, and the Prime Minister wouldn't settle on the choice. You see, Theresa May, she could have gone, you know, well, screw you, Parliament, I'm going to stand with the people, and simply taken us straight out. She's always had that authority, but by going to the EU this week, she's given that away, and you know what's left of her authority is certainly destroyed. But why did this deal not pass? Because it kept us so close to the EU that, from a Remain point of view, surely that deal and the 2-year wangling period where the actual political settlement is ironed out afterwards would be their best chance to either keep us so close to the EU it was as good as not leaving, or to take us back in. Yet they voted it down twice, and it looks like they will still vote it down despite it being the EU's deal. Why is this? And I think that before we understand anything else, we have to understand this. Now, I have a theory for you. The theory goes something like this. The theory is that for the last 5 decades, our political class has been ongoingly subverted where strong, independent, capable-minded people have been weeded out and replaced by weak-willed following non-entities who can't think their way out of a paper bag. You see, under the arrangement with the EU running Britain, MPs didn't need to be able to think. They only needed to be able to posture. You know, I mean, so much about MPs. I'm not saying there aren't MPs that do good work, but they are so plodding and they are so moribund in their worldview. And, you know, the Mavericks have been weeded out, and the new intake are all absolutely hopeless bedwetters. Now, I mean, Theresa May came out and made her statement where she said MPs shared a lot of the blame for the process not working. And the MPs responded straight away by by bleating about it and saying if any of us gets harmed, it's Theresa May's fault for inciting public anger against us. You know, these are people who cannot stand to be held accountable for anything at all. You know, we never expected to be able to. And the biggest problem that Brexit poses to the established British political class, full of these second-rate non-entities by design, they are there to be the administrators of the policy of the foreign government. They're not there to lead. They're not there to run a country. They're not there to have vision and drive and ambition. You know, that's why they're so crap. Period. Simple. And part of this second-rate nature is they have second-rate minds and second-rate imaginations. So, for so many of them, they are, in fact, the worst snobs. They are the worst Little Englanders. They Arch Remainer MPs, especially, I'm talking about here, they think the EU is there for their benefit. You know, they think that the EU is about their right to cheap labour, cheap care workers, cheap nannies, cheap barista staff. You know. And this is, you know, this metropolitan attitude, you know, has seen them completely delude themselves about their own importance, you know, and they have lost themselves in these navel-gazing arguments about the kind of Brexit we want to have. And they don't listen to the EU itself. They are a parliament of useful idiots, but they have now become useless, useful idiots. Because they failed to stop us voting leave in 2016. So from the EU's point of view, they've been useless for some time. But now their delusions of self-grandeur and failure to understand Britain's true relationship with the EU has just led that they've actually become the worst impediment to the EU's own deal getting put in place. So when we see frustration and exasperation with Britain from the EU, it's completely genuine in my view. It's completely genuine that they are, absolutely fed up with our useless MPs who haven't been able to see their own self-interest. Now, I was going to come back to comments for a moment, just pick up how the comments have been going. Yeah, 4,000 feet. Yeah, okay. Lots of people in. All right, so that's the one factor, is that the MPs themselves are useless and they have been a barrier to the European Union actually getting its deal through. And that is ironic. Now, when we consider the narrative of parties like the SNP, you know, and they're all about, is Theresa May's deal, because they're also all about how it's Westminster's fault. I'm not entirely convinced that the SNP are so much bothered about being in the EU or not as they are about being able to frame everything about being Westminster's fault. You know, and you know, because they have gained power through the EU, yeah, they do want to stay in it, but they want to blame Westminster more. You know, They're more interested in blaming Westminster than solving any of the problems. In fact, why do they need to solve the problems? Because it can all go wrong and be blamed on Westminster, or be blamed on the Conservative Party, in contrast. So there's a lot of that kind of aspects to it. They're all looking for someone to blame. The EU's looking for someone to blame. I can tell you who's getting the blame. Theresa May's getting the blame. And in that one way, in that one sense, I do have a smidgen of sympathy has developed for her, because she must be immensely frustrated at the fucking morons she has to work with. And, it is hard not to empathise on that level. But, okay. So, it's the deluded nature of the Ramona MPs themselves, who are completely ignorant of what's going on inside the EU, who are ignorant of the power structures inside the EU that want Britain gone, that want Britain's European Union Parliament seats, and how critically important to factions which are trying to redress the balance of power inside the EU but want to stay in it themselves, how critically important it is for them to gain control of a power represented by the seats that Britain had in the European Parliament. And in my last live stream last week, I stated that the latest extension the EU would possibly give would be May the 22nd. And that has been borne out. Theresa May went and asked for June the 30th, but she got May the 22nd. And the reason for that is that the very next day, the elections for the European Parliament take place. So Britain has to be, the one narrative says Britain has to be gone by that date. And that is a narrative that we are going to support. Now, let's talk about what's just happened. So basically, Theresa May has gone and abdicated responsibility for Brexit and begged the European Council to sort this mess out for her. As a result, the European Union has invoked its clauses and taken control of the Article 50 process. Now, I want us to think for a minute about the sheer enormity of that. For everything that we've been told for the last couple of years, and in comes the EU and completely takes all the Tories out of the hands of the Prime Minister, out of the hands of Parliament. Now, Parliament is in profound denial over this. And Parliament thinks it can get it together and simply cancel Article 50. That would be the worst of all possible worlds, but that by no means certain the EU would accept that. Despite some encouraging noises being made by Donald Tusk, because that is inciting enormous instability, because to do that would be moving from covert to overt dictatorship. Now, I could talk about that aspect a little bit more later, I think. I won't dive into that just now. But, I mean, when the democratic process fails, there comes a point where, you're under serious risk. Your free society, is in absolute jeopardy. That is very true. But we are not without plenty of legitimate means of democratic pressure. And that is certainly going to be on all Brexiteers now in the next few weeks. If you've ever been into signing petitions and petitioning, thank you, your MP, and making these democratic actions, we're going to need it, and we're going to need lots of it. And we're going to need to go out there and give it welly on social media too. And Aslan will be doing its part for that, because we have to make clear that we are the majority of the electorate. We voted to leave, and we will not accept a scenario but does not mean leaving. Now, I'm going to explain what we mean here. Route number one will be that Parliament approves Theresa May's deal. Now, everyone's saying the chances of this actually happening are utterly remote. Yeah, but there's no way Parliament will approve the deal. I tend to think that remains the most likely. I think it's very unlikely that Parliament is going to get that deal passed. But it now has 3 weeks, not 1 week, in which to do it. So can Parliament pass that deal in the next 3 weeks? If it cannot, if it can, when we exit on the terms of that exit deal, which is the EU's Brexit deal, we exit on those terms on May the 22nd. Now, if it can't pass the deal, then the current situation appears to be that on April the 12th, the UK then has to go to the EU with a credible way to go forwards. Now, Macron has said that this is no deal territory. Others seem to be hinting that the EU might then agree a 2-year extension. Now, I think that the 2-year extension has a lot of Remain propaganda attached to it. By which I don't mean EU propaganda, I mean UK Remain propaganda, by which I mean spin from the BBC and Sky News. Because that still means that we get into enormous legal tussles over the European Parliament and whether Britain should or should not have MEPs. And it's just going to be so unpleasant and bitter. The chances that the EU is going to welcome that is very, very unlikely. They would rather have Brexit settled and not part of the next parliamentary session, as a very powerful faction with vetoes, but certainly believes it that way. And note that the fake news has been talking about France's reaction. It's not a word about Italy or about Hungary and about Viktor Orban, who very well just veto the whole lot. So it isn't plain sailing on the EU side either. There's a lot of front involved in what they've done. However, it's a fact the EU has taken legal control of the Brexit process. Now, we now need to start to think about timing and remedy. 29th of March is gone. Right? It's no longer anything. Yeah, in terms of the statute law legal force, 29th of March is gone. So on that basis, you know, if we're talking about Brexit betrayed, 29th of March is, you know, is a potential, is a rallying cry, you know. But it's the 12th of April that matters. And we're clearly going to need to be making, you know, massive representations. We're going to need to be bombarding, not the UK, not Theresa May. You know, these wankers don't matter now. We've got to do a PR campaign hitting the European Union as much as anybody else. So, you know, we need to have our tactics heads on for the next 3 weeks. And, you know, Aslan will do what it can to show a way, you know, but it's way bigger a job than just Aslan alone. Obviously, I mean, this is an effort for all patriots who love freedom and who love Britain. You know, it's as simple as that. We must defend Brexit. That is not an option. Then we get into public actions. This is where it gets a little bit more sticky. You see, there are various laws that govern whether a demonstration is lawful or unlawful. Now, we can agree with them or not. But if a demonstration is coming off half-cock, you know, and is looking to spoil for making a big fuss, you know, or spoiling for a fight, you know, then that is a tricky road to go down, you know, because there's all sorts of laws to control that. As people like Britain first found out, you know, that there are, I mean, even in common law, there's laws about incitement and so forth and so on, you know. So there are places that Aslan does not go. But that does not mean that Aslan will not support whatever we see which is worthy of support. So, you know, we're hearing of a group over on Twitter, for example. Come back up to get to my actual tweet. A group on Twitter I've just been looking at this afternoon. Here we go. Brexit direct action. This is Action at Brexit. And they are, you know, a group which is looking to potentially be doing, you know, mass protests with lorries blocking roads and so forth and so on. So they're coming into prominence to get some following on to that Action at Brexit. So we're going to see things like this, and Aslan will support these things. You know, non-violent direct action is entirely legitimate democratic protest. So, you know, we will support it. And you know, we suggest that people start following these people. We're less keen to get too close to any of the political parties. It's quite possible we're going to see the Brexit Party make great strides. It looks like Brady from the Tory 1922 committee is making big noises against Theresa May right now. It's possible that a lot of the European research group inside the Tory party will walk to the Brexit Party, giving the Brexit Party, you know, who knows, but, you know, a good few dozen MPs. So, you know, that would be something that we would have to consider. And then, you know, we don't think we'd like to see a general election this side of April 12th anyway. So, you know, that isn't going to be the primary factor, but a general election is certainly going to follow once this mess is sorted out. Okay, so we've got new parties coming forward, we've got direct action coming forward, but we aren't going to support anything, but we don't know the organisers. Because we need to talk a little bit about the City of London and how the City of London is a city within a city, and how when you protest inside the City of London, it's effectively the same as protesting within the Vatican City, you know. So it has its own private laws about policing. So basically, if you protest inside London, they can kettle you and beat the shit out of you, and nobody will ever blink an eye, you know. And so, you know, to an extent, London is a trap, and decent direct actions everywhere are far more powerful, and not everyone can get to London. Well, London has an inbuilt Remain advantage because there's so many of them who can get there across to one travel card. So we will see what develops. We will certainly, you know, look to support all the lawful actions going on, and we're going to be looking to get pressure onto the people that matter and tell the truth about what has just happened. Because above all else, here is the big takeaway from this week. The EU has just proved Brexit right, because the EU, in order to try to stop the process spinning completely out of their control, has had to prove that its law is supreme over UK law, because the UK is a member of the European Union. Do you realise what damage this has just done to Remain? That is something that we are not hearing through the media. Oh God, I wonder why. But that is something that we will certainly be shouting about a lot in the next 3 weeks. You can be sure of it. And we ask everyone to get behind that and see that and start pumping that out and start pointing out that the EU has just proved that the British government is unfit for purpose and that it's an unlawful foreign government. Now that puts us into this territory. In my first Brexit live stream last week, I talked about how I personally started my Brexit campaign in 2009, and how my initial action was to reclaim my consent to be governed from Gordon Brown and the then third term of New Labour, and how I maintained that I reclaimed my consent for 5 years before I returned my consent to start to vote UKIP in the 2014 Euro elections, and how I've been using my vote since. Now, what you take away, you can bring back. What you bring back, you can take away again. So there is a legitimate path to standing in lawful rebellion against government. I think there's a lot of overcomplicated talk about it, because really it's about the person standing on their God-given rights as an act of personal conscience. So you never really needed, there to be this or that or the other to do this. You just need to really know that you really need to. And one thing about this current situation, if Parliament fails to pass Theresa May's deal, and if the European Union doesn't permit no deal and forces a long extension or cancelling on Article 50, then the democratic road will have failed, and we will be in the lawful rebellion situation. And that is somewhere that I hoped that we would never be. I hoped that we would not see the total failure of the political process. However, we are pretty close to it. But what we have to be very careful of now, as we enter days like this, is that lawful rebellion isn't part of civil war. And we could be sure that there's going to be bad actors and plenty out there who are going to be looking to incite just that, because that would justify everything in terms of the EU taking control of Britain for its own safety. I hate to even think we can go there, so we're going to have to be very careful about how we proceed, and getting democratic pressure behind making clear to the EU that Leave voters will not accept a continuation past April 12th in the event that May's deal isn't agreed is going to be our most paramount action. All right, I'm going to come to questions. We've done half an hour of me jibber-jabbering. Let's see where we've got to. I can back up here. Okay, so yeah, our starting point of the EU should have been what, no deal. Yes, it should have been John Sanderson, and it could have been, but that wasn't what Theresa May wanted. And in that is her primary betrayal. Freedom versus dictatorship. Have faith. Yes, very true. The Remainers can't see the full facts. How true. I'm going to come to that. Look, there is a small body of Remainers who are informed. Most Remainers certainly cannot see the full facts, and they really don't understand the unlawful nature of the EU. That is absolutely right. However, there is a handful, I'd say, proportionate, 5%, right? They know the EU sucks. They know it does. They know it does. But here's the thing. They've basically made the calculation that they'd rather take the risk on the EU sucking than be stuck with the UK sucking. And I have to say, I could understand where they're coming from, but I believe they're wrong, Of course I do, because I know that they are giving away far much from we understand in terms of our actual heritage, and being tricked by looking only at the surface of the current statute law situation. And the fact that Westminster is corrupt should not be putting us off. The whole point is we need to peel off the EU vampire squid so we can actually get the disinfectant around Westminster. You know, but I agree. They don't know the full picture. Oh God, how true that is. You're right, Debbie. You could talk to them. They just don't want to know. Trapped in debt. That's a good part of it, Fred. You know, they are system servers. They are the snobs. They are the educated elite, or at least that's what they think they are. You know, they have a degree, so they can have a degree job. You know, some of them have, and then many of them think that those jobs are, you know, they have to do right think, which is all about the group think of the EU. Absolutely. Now, Debbie, 28th March is written in law. This is the awful bit, my darling. Right. I want to agree with you. Right. I want to agree with you and say 29th March is written in UK law, and that is the primacy. However, that's statute law. And unfortunately, you know, the EU does have the advantage in statute law. I mean, this is the whole point, right? This is the whole point about why signing Lisbon was such a heroically bad idea in the first place. It does put EU law over UK law. It always has. But this week, they've had to show their hand, and we must see that and make it advantage. This is it. Goodbye, EU. I do believe we are going that way, Fred. What about Robin Tilbrook case, about it being unlawful to extend? We've got to see how that goes, Jennifer. But like everything else, he's tight against it. I mean, he's got, what, a week to make that case? It's not impossible he could put a spanner in the works. But let's not overdo the odds there. It's probably a slim chance. If on the 29th of March, the people do not get their freedom, they will kick off. Yes, Debbie. And how we kick off is what Aslan's messages about what matters. You know, we can't control what others do, but we can stand by our values, and that is what we do at times like this. You know, people could think we're right, people could think they're wrong. We're wrong, but we're going to do it. We're going to stand by who we believe we are, and we'll see how that all shakes out. Bigly, yes. A London thread from John Sanderson. I may not be able to see this link for political reasons. Let's have a look. Can I see this? No. Oh well, I can't talk about it. Oh, what a shame. So. The storm is gathering. It is. I'm doing a rain dance, says John. Very good. If EU law outranks our acts of parliament, we don't need a parliament. Bingo, Jennifer. The very thing they have been so terrified all along of us finding out. Does Protests know of our situation? Absolutely yes, Debbie. I wrote him a letter. We are bucketed for sure. No, we're not. We are not. And we must remember that POTUS has significant leverage over the EU. And we must remember that despite the rumours about extending for 2 years, the EU has only talked sign May's deal or no deal. We have to make that stick. We have to push hard now. POTUS knows. Yes, he does, Lisa. Our establishment helped create the EU. Yes, we did, Dean. Nazis, yes, Dean. Royals, yes, Dean. People ain't happy. Too bloody true, Mickey. Their time will come. Tick-tock, Prince Andrew. Sandy. MEPs like kindergartners trying to counteract or communicate with Brussels Central seasoned sociopaths. Oh, that's quite a good bit of it, isn't it? Brussels Central seasoned sociopaths. I like that. Well, MEPs are even worse than MPs, you know. I mean, there's the ones with some spirit in them who are patriotic populists, but the rest of them are bloody terrible. Gives me a headache, leave, please, bloody leave. Yeah, it's simple enough now, isn't it, Cheryl? Debbie, God bless you, darling. The final countdown, when will the EU fall? Good question, Fred. I reckon the EU is going to have a lot of trouble surviving the next session of the EU Parliament. So let's say no longer than 5 years. and let's say it could be a lot quicker. You know, it depends on lots of things, including D-class. We need to keep it together. We don't need EU troops on our streets. Now, I'm going to talk about this now. Last week on the live stream, an article was brought to my attention. Well, a government press release was brought to my attention about Operation, I think it's called Joint Warrior. Is that correct? Exercise Joint Warrior, yes. Which is where 10,000 personnel from 13 countries arrived for a major NATO exercise, starting on the 30th of March, continuing until the 13th of April. Now, there is a very serious concern that this could be used to potentially thwart the will of the people. Aslan responded by writing to POTUS, and we got some interesting confirmation that said that's definitely been seen. And we got awareness about this spread to several thousand people as a result. So we made a push on this. I kind of wonder, what if there was a black hat faction that did have some plan to maybe use this exercise as for some sort of power grab? And what if that got identified, and that is why the EU put its date back to April the 12th? I don't know. Something very coincidental about it all. It's a 2-week exercise which now finishes at the time of a new Brexit deadline is up. Is this defusing some kind of bomb? What influence might POTUS be having in this, being as the USA is involved in this exercise? Or is it all just a huge coincidence? But given the countries taking part, it does seem a bit unlikely. It's Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, UK, and the US. And we're a total of 10,300 armed forces, 6,500 at sea, 3,000 at land, 800 at air. So, you know, I mean, that's no small force to be bringing into UK territory. So what can we make of that? You know, no, we don't need EU troops on our streets. We don't need our troops on our streets either. So, you know, what's happening next could get quite risky, and we need to be aware of extremists, including extremist Remainers, you know, because frankly, they're pretty damn nasty people. They have all the information, the war is already won. That will be nice, Fred. That will be nice. Eyes and ears are everywhere. They have nowhere to hide. There are no coincidences, says Lissa. Okay. So, I think we've addressed everything from the comments at the moment. What I really want to talk about is mental attitude. Now, Aslan tries to get across deeper truths about human existence than just the blather about politics. You know, we try to share a sense of a deeper wisdom. And part of this wisdom is absolutely, you know, control of your own mind. Not letting the perspectives and agendas of others, especially those that might call enemies, not letting their mentality define your mentality. And it is so very, very important, right? Nothing is won, true, but also nothing is lost. And I have seen, very understandably, but I have seen, you know, a good amount of fear porn during the rounds today. Everyone fears betrayal. Yes, of course we do. Everyone fears being sold out. Yes, of course we do. But that does not mean they have won. Those things have not yet happen. They are even closer to being at risk, yes, but we are also even closer to the opportunity, because at the end of the day, if we can push the EU now, so the EU chooses no deal to be done with it, and that is a very attractive picture to many powerful forces inside the EU, and we need to push that now. If we could connect to them now, the EU could deliver Brexit to us in only 3 weeks' time. But if our morale is broken at this point, if we think it's not worth our effort at this point, if we think they've already won, then they co-opt us into being part of making that happen. Now, here is a very tough truth. Silence is consent. If something happens that you don't agree with, and you will not at least raise your voice and state that you stand against it, and even better, state what you stand for. If you will not do that, then you do consent to whatever that change is. Let's be clear about voting. Voting sucks, you know, really. Democracy is the worst system because it's always about the mob. It's always about the majority over the minority. And it always sucks. There's just one small thing. It's the best system the human race has ever discovered, and all the others are worse. Now, I mean, of course, not everywhere is what we might call a classic pure democracy. There's also the republic model, which seeks to contain democracy within an overarching constitutional framework, you know, and in some ways that offers protection against the worst abuses of democracy, and the framers of the American Constitution were quite wise there, and have informed democratic constitutions ever since. You know, there's a lot to be learned from that, but nevertheless, democracy is mob rule. Democracy fucking sucks. The only thing is, everything else from democracy is worse. So you have to approach democracy with your real, positive, firm, focused, game face on, energy, drive, perspective. And that's how you lever it. That's how you move it. That's how a few always end up making the difference to history. And that is absolutely where we are right now. So you have a choice. You can run around, panic, be a headless chicken, and not really be part of making anything effective, and possibly be part of making things worse. You can get your game head on, you can get focused, and we can take effective actions to push the EU to ensure that we either no deal Brexit or we leave on the EU deal. I mean, even though that's worse than no deal, we would have to go with that if the legal process went that way, and then rescue it with the next government would be the right approach to that. Accept that, get out, get a better government, and control the terms of the political process over the next couple of years. So if that's the way it goes, fine. If we could work with that. But if we don't get that, we must push for no deal Brexit on April 12th. And we must believe that we can achieve it. And we must go out to achieve it. We must back every lawful, legitimate effort. But if anybody is out there calling for violence, if anyone is out there calling for civil unrest, if anyone is out there calling for lynchings of politicians, then no, we will not be able to stand with them. So be advised. You know, we are charting our course. We are fighting our fight. Look, not voting is always an option. You don't have to care. Yeah, you don't have to care. Do you know what? A lot of people go through their lives and they never even bloody think about it. They just get on with earning some money and then working out how to spend it in a fun way. Am I to call them fools? You can see the attraction of the approach. Yeah, but you know that is effectively being non-competent in the info war, because democracy is war by other means, and it's a war that must always be fought and must always be won, because otherwise you end up being imposed upon. So standing up for who we are and being part of the balance of society is all part of responsible citizenship, and there ain't no getting away with that. Yeah, but you know, when you vote, you commit to being governed by your choice, and that is where reclaiming consent and lawful rebellion will become very important. And as it looks, if we don't have an exit with no deal on April 12th, if May's deal has not been passed, if we do not achieve that, then it certainly looks to me, as you know, lead as admin on Aslans Army, it looks to me like we will have crossed the lawful rebellion threshold, and then we will indeed proceed to lawfully rebel. No, Cheryl, it doesn't, because the EU are taking control of that, and it's the EU that's moved that date, but it's still in the Article 50 process. So the only way out of that would be withdrawing Article 50. Otherwise, we are still leaving. But, you know, God, I don't blame you for thinking it's a mess. Oh, excuse me. Whatever happens, stay balanced and strong. We will win. Yes, very true. It would be great if we had someone like Screaming Lord Such. Well, John, here is your moment to stand up and get costume. You've got a video camera, haven't you? You don't have to let on it's you. Just a thought, you know. And if anyone wants to get going, you know, doing stuff like that and wants some help, then we will look to try and support you to, you know, maybe do a podcast with you or something like that if you've got a lot to say. Okay, we're coming up for an hour since the start of this. I am moving to the wind-up phase. I'm going to look for any final comments in the next couple of minutes. Have we hit your points? Is there anything you think, John? I really wish you talked about that. Yeah, so last chance to get it in the next couple of minutes. And if not, I will wind this live stream up. So, who's got any further comments from the gallery? Just while we wait for that, I'm going to come over and look at one tweet. Hugh Bennett, right, at Hugh R. Bennett on Twitter, 2 T's. For the vote Article 50 petition, Remainers are getting all excited about, is being signed by people everywhere from Russia, Saudi Arabia to Papua New Guinea and North Korea. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Sit down. It's a bot farmed fake. What else have we got going on here? I thought I retweeted more recently than this. I'm missing a tweet here that I was looking for. Maybe it counts as a reply. Just click over on this side. I've had a tweet deleted. Bollocks to you, Jack. I'll come back to that later. Not important right now. Okay, yeah, I think that's it then, gang. You know, let's keep our eyes open, right? Aslan's going to be full alert, battle stations cruising ahead in the next few weeks. Yeah, we have not lost. We are not defeated. We do not despair, for we are free British Brexiteers, and we are Aslans Army. God bless everyone. Good night. Oh, hang on. Jennifer, just to clarify, 29th of March is done. If May's deal fails in Parliament, we have to see if we can get the EU to kick us out no deal on April 12th. That is our new mission. Right. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.